Greetings, everybody. I'm here to talk about the brand new film that's out, the Robert Eggers 2024 version of Nosferatu, which is another remake, reboot, more remake than reboot in this case, I would say. And I was not going to see this. I'm not a big fan of newer movies for the most part, but sometimes I get pleasantly surprised. And what finally convinced me to take a chance on seeing this movie was the fact that when I saw the trailer, I really liked the photography. It was very gothic. It looked, almost black and white, but not quite. Attention was paid to detail and atmosphere, and it looked very much like a kind of movie that got it right and took itself seriously. So I said, you know what, maybe I'll go ahead and take a chance on the movie. So I did. I went to the theater for it. Okay, before I start, let me tell you a little bit, for those who may not know, which is important as I talk about the review, the history of the movie. Now, first of all, Bram Stoker did a classic novel called Dracula. We all know Dracula. We've all heard of Dracula. There's been 1,000 Dracula movies over the decades. And he wrote this book, and the movie was going to be made back in 1922. And at that time, I believe it was Bram Stoker's family did not give the rights to use the name Dracula in the 1922 film. So therefore, the character of Dracula was called Count Orlok in the 1922 version, and some of the names were changed. You didn't have Jonathan Harker, you didn't have the name of Renfield, and the title of the film was NOSFERATU, which is German for undead. Originally, I was not going to see this movie because I get really, really tired of endless remakes and reboots of old movies. Now, considering that the original Nosferatu was a silent film from 1922, that's 102 years ago, I figured, well, it's okay to remake it with sound. The original here, that's Nosferatu from 1922. I have it on at DVD. Then in 1979, Werner Herzog remade it called Nosferatu the Vampire with Klaus Kinski in the monster role. And okay, so you have two versions already done of this. I'm not going to count the movie Shadow of the Vampire. That's silliness. So I don't count that as one of the movies in the Nosferatu series. Okay, so I went to see it at a theater. And I have to tell you that, in my opinion, either one of these is far superior to this new version. All right. I know this seems to be getting a lot of acclaim, the new version. I don't understand it. I suspect it has to do with the visuals, okay? Because Robert Eggers really is very good with capturing the 19th century look, the costumes, the locations. It feels really of its period. He does a good job with the atmosphere, definitely. It's kind of creepy, dark, but at the same time, it's underlit. Okay, there's such a thing as making a movie nice and dark, kind of gloomy for its horror appeal, but yet if you can't tell what's going on because the scenes are just too damn dark, including the character, the main villain, Orlok, who throughout the entire length of the movie, and it's over 2 hours, it's too long too. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes. It feels a little too long. You don't even get a good look at this Orlok at all. You know, you're struggling to get a full on view. It doesn't work. You don't really get to see it. So great atmosphere, and that's the best thing I can say about it. On atmosphere, it scores, even though it's still underlit. But they forgot to include a story. There's no story. This is one of those movies where they try to remake something, vampires supposedly, and they assume you know all about the history of vampires. I mean, a lot of people out there watching this say, yeah, we already know the whole deal with the vampires. We don't need to go through the idea, the nature of the vampire. We don't have to talk about the origin. Nowhere in this movie, for example, did I even remember them saying it was a vampire. Now, you could miss anything on a first viewing. I don't think they really go into the vampire thing at all. It might have been glossed over quickly. I don't remember anywhere it being really painted clearly to you that a vampire is a creature that needs to drink the blood of humans and or other creatures to sustain its own life. I don't think I really remember that. Oh, sure, we see the obligatory scenes of people getting bit, usually in the chest for some reason. I don't know, I guess the neck is so passe, but there's a lot of chest biting going on in here. But yeah, there's just no real narrative to this. Situations here are just thrown out at you that you just to cover the bases, to check off the list. Okay, there's a real estate salesman who goes to sell property to this mysterious count, and check. We don't know exactly 100% why the count wants to buy this, although we assume it's to get near his intended victim. Not really sure why they just go through the numbers like that. That's a feeling that I get of it. Count Orlok is supposed to be a vampire, as originally conceived. Supposed to be, basically, he's Dracula. That's what he is. But in this movie, he's more like some kind of like deformed, messed up looking creature with a mustache thrown in. That's more like a Pazuzu demon from The Exorcist. This didn't strike me so much as a vampire film as much as it struck me as an exorcism film, or The Exorcist, or possession. The whole possession angle I wanted no part of. Lily Rose Depp is in this movie as the main female victim. She constantly goes into contortions, her eyes roll back a la Linda Blair, and she can sense everything going on with the vampire before it happens and everything. That whole deal. Look, I'm not here to watch another Exorcist remake, okay? This is supposed to be Nosferatu. The pacing of the movie, very slow and tedious. Even the 1922 classic was more captivating and interesting and had a little more of a story. You could feel there was something going on from point to point to point to a climax at the end. This is just a bunch of stuff thrown at you. The Renfield character, who's not called Renfield in the Nosferatu version here, or the new one, I think he's called Knock. His name is Knock. It's just kind of like, again, a checklist. Oh, yeah, we got to have a raving lunatic thrown in there who spews a lot of blood. And, who is he exactly? Why did this happen exactly to him? Why does he have a fate where he's gone mad? Why is he seeking to... I don't even think they show you him eating a lot of bugs and things like that. He's supposed to be trying to sustain his own life because he eats insects and things like that. Just a mess. It's a mess of a movie, is what I feel. It just comes down to a nice looking mess, a very attractive mess, well photographed mess, but a mess nonetheless. Let's talk about Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe plays, I guess, the vampire hunter. I say I guess because I think he's right for the part. I think he looks right, he sounds right, he acts right. The problem is he's wasted because the screenplay is underwritten, and his character is of no real advantage to the people, in peril here. I don't really get him as being competent or anything. I don't even know what that was all about. As far as this movie being scary, it is not scary in the least. It has some creepy atmosphere, but the level of so-called scares, and I saw people jump a couple of times, is that old trick of just having like some loud sound, boom, or like, some jump startle scare music, boom, like that. That's not a scary movie. You want to see a scary movie? The original 1922, Nosferatu. Now, I watched this again last night. I haven't seen this movie in a long, long time. But before I set out to do this review, I made sure I rewatched the original by F.W. Murnau, the German director. And I have to tell you, even with no sound, just music, it was scarier. You don't need jump startle noises, jump sounding booms and things like that. No, you just need to know how to make a movie, okay? And I have to say, there were scenes in here, just images of Count Orlok. Even this picture here on this DVD cover looks scarier than anything in the new movie. But all you need are images in this movie, and there were a lot of them, of Count Orlok standing in a doorway, peering through the glass window. And you get to see a lot more of him than you do this hidden mysterious monster figure in the new one that you can't even make head and a tail of what it looks like, really. Yeah, every time this guy's on screen, he's a hell of a lot more deadly and scary and creepy than the thing in the new movie. And I'm not even talking about the actor. It's not important. You don't see him anyway. He could have been anybody. Could have been a CGI figure, you know. So yeah, very disappointed with the new movie. A good-looking horror movie as far as cinematography, although even that's too, as I say, underlit. This movie seems to hark back to Francis Ford Coppola's movie from 1992, Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I didn't even really like that, to tell you the truth. I wasn't, but I'll tell you this. I'd rather watch Coppola's Dracula over this one, to tell you the truth. One last thing about the Orlok character. He's got his voice is like ridiculous. It tries to sound again like the early scenes of Coppola's Dracula with this weird, unnatural kind of accent. I don't know what he's supposed to be. A little bit slightly demonic, but yet with a weird accent. No need for that. Yeah, I'm not happy with the movie. That's about all I could tell you. It seems to be doing well. I'd like to know if anybody else agrees with me on this one. We don't need another Nosferatu. You want to see Nosferatu? 102 years old. This is better. And this one is also good. The one with Klaus Kinski from 1979, which I haven't seen in a while, and I will eventually give another spin after seeing the new one. But I remember liking this way better than I did the new one. Cheers, everybody.